I walked into the classroom with my bag. The morning was quiet. The air smelled like books and chalk. I sat down near the window. Then I felt something. Someone was looking at me. I turned my head. A boy was staring. He was 2 rows away. He had dark hair and tired eyes. He did not smile. He only watched me. At first I looked away. I told myself, do not care. But I could feel his eyes again. I looked back. He was still watching. His face looked serious. His nose moved a little. He looked like he was smelling something. My heart started to beat fast. I thought, do I smell bad? I wore perfume today. It was a soft perfume. It was not strong. It was the perfume my grandma gave me. She said, this is special. It smells like spring. I liked it. But now I felt nervous. I touched my hair. I touched my shirt. I whispered to myself, maybe it is too much. I did not want people to think I was strange. The teacher started the lesson. I opened my notebook, but I could not focus. I kept feeling his eyes on me. I felt heat on my face. I thought, why is he looking at me? At one point he bent his head. Then he looked up again. He did not stop. I started to get angry. I wanted to say, stop looking. But my voice stayed inside. The clock ticked slowly. Every sound in the room felt loud. The teacher's words felt far away. The boy's eyes felt close. I lowered my head. I wrote words I did not understand. I wanted the bell to ring. I wanted to run out. But inside I also felt something else. It was not only fear, it was also curiosity. Why was he looking? Why did his face look so sad? Why did he act like he knew me? The bell rang. My body jumped. Chairs moved. Books closed. People talked. I stood up fast. I held my bag tight. Then I saw him again. He was still looking at me, and in that second he whispered something. I could not hear clearly, but I saw his lips move. He said one word, scent. The bell rang and everyone left the room. I moved slowly. I wanted to escape, but I also wanted to know. My bag felt heavy on my shoulder. I walked toward the door. Then I heard a voice. Wait! It was him, the boy from the second row. I stopped. My feet felt like stone. I turned my head. He was there, standing near me. His eyes looked serious, but not angry. You smell like my past, he said. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I thought, what does he mean? I felt my face turn warm. I wanted to hide. He looked at me, waiting. I whispered, I don't understand. He nodded, slow. Then he said, your perfume. It is familiar. He closed his eyes for 1 second. His hand touched his chest, like something inside hurt. He opened his eyes again. It is the same smell. From before. My heart beat fast. I wanted to ask more, but I was scared. What if it was something bad? What if he thought I copied someone? He looked at me again. It smells like home, he said. His voice was soft, almost like a child. I felt something move in my chest. It was not fear this time. It was something gentle. Home? I asked. Yes, he said. Then he paused. He looked down at the floor. My mom, she used this perfume. The words cut through the air. For a moment I forgot to breathe. I held my bag tight. I thought about my grandma, her kind smile, her old hands, her gift. I thought, this perfume carries memory, not just mine, his too. I wanted to say something kind, but I only said, oh. My voice was small. He smiled, but it was a sad smile. You don't know how strange it feels, he said. It is like she is here again. For 1 second. His eyes were wet, but he did not cry. I felt my own throat close. I did not know what to do. We stood there in silence. People walked past us. The hall was loud, but our space was quiet. Finally he said, thank you for this scent. I shook my head. It is nothing, I whispered. But in my heart it was not nothing. It was heavy, it was soft. It was the start of something. The next day I saw him again. He was waiting near the library. When our eyes met, he gave a small smile. I felt my steps slow down. He said, "Can we talk?" I nodded. We walked outside. The sun was soft and the air was cool. We sat on a wooden bench under a tree. For a moment we were quiet. Birds made little sounds above us. The world felt far away. He started first. "My mom used that perfume every day," he said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were not. "They say smell is memory. I think it is true." I held my hands in my lap. I said, "This perfume is from my grandma." He looked at me with surprise. "Really?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "She gave it to me last year. She said it was special. She said, 'This smell will stay in your heart.'" His face softened. He whispered, "It stayed in mine too." I wanted to say something more, but words felt small. So we just sat there, sharing the quiet. After a while, he said, "My mum passed away when I was 12. The words fell heavy. I looked down at my shoes. I whispered, "I'm sorry." He nodded. "She was the kindest person I knew. And when you walked into class yesterday, it was like she was close again." For a second, I could almost hear her laugh. I felt a lump in my throat. I thought of my grandma. She was still here, but older, weaker. One day, maybe I would feel the same emptiness. The thought made me hold my breath. I turned to him and said, "Maybe this perfume is a bridge. Between your mom and you, between my grandma and me." He looked at me, eyes bright with tears. "A bridge," he repeated. "Yes," I said, "something invisible but strong." We sat there until the sun began to fade. People passed us, but no one noticed. It was only us, the bench, and the scent in the air. When we finally stood up, he said softly, "Can we keep this secret? Just between us?" I smiled and said, "Yes." Our secret. In that moment, I felt close to him. Not because of words, not because of touch, but because of a scent that carried two hearts. After that day, things felt different. When I walked into class, I no longer felt nervous. I felt his eyes again, but this time they were kind. Sometimes he smiled, just a little, and I smiled back. One afternoon we met near the sports field. He was sitting on the grass, looking at the sky. I walked over and sat down beside him. He turned and said, "I can smell it again." I laughed softly. "Maybe it never leaves," I said. He nodded. "This scent makes me feel safe," he whispered, "like I am home again." The words touched me. I looked at him, and I felt something warm inside. It was not just about perfume anymore. It was about what we shared. We started to talk more, not only about the perfume. We talked about school, about music, about food. He told me he liked old songs his mum used to play. I told him my grandma loved baking cookies. We laughed when we found out both our kitchens smelled sweet in the evening. Sometimes he grew quiet. He would stare at the ground and say nothing. I knew he was thinking about his mum. In those moments, I did not push. I just sat beside him, letting silence be our friend. One day he said, "When I was small, my mum told me a secret. She said, 'Love can hide in simple things. In a sound, in a smell, in a touch.'" He looked at me. I think she was right. Because of this scent, I feel her love again. I felt my throat tighten. I thought of my grandma's hands, wrinkled but strong. I thought of her voice when she gave me the perfume. I whispered, "Maybe love never leaves. It just hides until we find it." He smiled, and this time it was not sad. It was soft, almost bright. "Maybe you are right," he said. That day we did not say goodbye with words. We just looked at each other and smiled. It felt like a promise without speaking. A bond was forming, invisible but strong, like the scent itself. Weeks passed. The days felt lighter now. Every time I wore the perfume, I thought of him, and every time he smelled it, he thought of her. It became part of us. One evening, the sky was turning pink. We walked together along the quiet street. The air was cool. Our steps were slow. He suddenly stopped. He turned to me and said, "Do you ever feel afraid of losing people?" The question made my chest tight. I thought of my grandma. Her hands were weaker now, her steps slower. I whispered, "Yes, I feel it every day." He looked at me, his eyes soft. "I was afraid too," he said, "but when I smell this scent, I feel less alone." His voice trembled a little. "It reminds me of love. It reminds me that love does not die." I held my breath. Then I said, "If this scent makes you feel safe, then I will keep it." My words were simple, but my heart was full. He smiled, but this smile was different. It was real, warm, almost shining. "Thank you," he whispered, "for keeping her close, for keeping love alive." We kept walking. We did not say much after that, but silence felt easy. It felt like we understood each other without words. When we reached the corner, he said softly, "This scent is not only perfume now. It is a promise that love stays." I nodded. "And I will carry it," I said. The wind moved gently around us. I smelled the perfume again, sweet and calm. For the first time, I did not feel nervous about it. I felt proud. That night, when I lay in bed, I thought about everything. The boy, his story, my grandma, the perfume. I realized it was not only about scent, it was about memory, it was about love. And deep inside, I made a quiet promise to keep love alive, to carry it forward, to share it, even in small ways. Because sometimes even a simple smell can bring two hearts together.